So guys, today we are going to take a look at the swing of Hideki Matsuyama and see what great bits he does in his swing. And so we can see here from the front view, Hideki's got a pretty wide stance right there. It's definitely substantially wider than his shoulders and his hips. Okay, and then what we'd see down the line, left-hand side of the screen, as he starts taking that club back, he very much takes it back in a really good one-piece move right here. Does a phenomenal job of maintaining his right hand on top of the club, and we can see there that the leading edge is very much parallel to his spine. From here, he then sets the golf club up, and at the top of the backswing, we will notice that he has a bit more of a unique position compared to what we'd see a lot of tour players doing right now. Club face is open with a little bit of cup, but it's open relative to that left arm. Okay, arms are on top of the shoulders, hips have definitely rotated a lot. There has been no restriction whatsoever in terms of the hip turn. So we'd see here a little bit of load across into that right side, but we can see, if anything, that's quite unique as well for him. Both feet are actually almost a little bit turned inwards. So this is something you see very few tour players doing. He must have phenomenal ankle rotation to be able to take advantage of this. So club face obviously open with a little bit of cup, so it's not the kind of bow closed look we see a lot of people doing. But then what he does is, this bit's brilliant, is the hands go outwards slightly as the transition begins, and then as they go outwards, the club then shallows. So let's just take this back to the top so we can see this a little bit more. So there they are going out. So now they go down this line to the ball and they drop down. Club is then shallow, but look at the room he has then got at this point for his arms in front of his body. A huge triangle of daylight right here, elbow on the front of the right hip, okay? And then from here, see the head now starts to turn. So what we'll see is his head starts to rotate back in this direction. So you see his eyes are now looking way right of the target line, okay? But his shoulders happen to be quite open, as do his hips. So head went backwards, eyes are rotated right. So the eye alignment and the ball trajectory aren't necessarily matching, okay? This is unique to him, but what he's then got is after here, keeps that club face very, very square through the ball. Having a look at this from the front view, what we'll see from the front view is as the transition takes shape, we'll see that definitely starts that transition from the ground up. Lower body's gone across. Classic modern movement right here is the left knee is further on at this point in the downswing than the hip. So there's been zero hip slides. This means that he's going to be in a position where he can very much rotate through the ball. But here's the interesting one is, here's the angle of the logo on the cap and the peak. And then what we see is as he starts to unwind now, we see that that head is just rotating to the right. He hasn't dropped it further back, so that means he's not dropping that path further to the inside. But you can see there it impacts in a very different position to what you see a lot of players in. It's actually turning. So then from here, everything then rotates through together. And you can see here at this point now, the triangle between the arms and the body are very much still together. Okay, there's been no flip over from down the line here. Everything's matching, ball perfectly on line, and the club releases low down through his body, so it goes under his shoulders, which therefore means that the body is controlling that rotation. So therefore we now see the big release here. Left wrist starts to recut. Head is releasing up and over, and then we see the end of the follow through right here. The weight is fully in the left heel, and we draw this little vertical line up. Head's behind the ankle, pelvis is through it, as is the shoulder. Okay, and now his nose comes up and touches that line, end of the follow through. So this is a great modern posted up finish with all of the weight in that left heel. We see it here from down the line, it's releasing. Okay, left wrist is now beginning to recut. See, forearms have never touched, because you can see that right here, it's still got the daylight, which means that, you know, his body is rotating and it's physics that's releasing that club. And obviously then he comes up into that follow through where the weight has now gone into that left heel. So what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to just hop onto the mat and have a look at what elements of this great swing you can apply to your game. So having a look at Hideki's swing right there, obviously there's a few unique bits to him, but there's some phenomenal bits that you can start to put into your game. Okay, first bit is, we know that he has quite a pronounced pause at the top here, and then comes down. I've used pause drills for people. I think it's a great way for you to learn how to sequence your downswing and also stop rushing your golf swing. So what I'm saying is, getting it to this top of the backswing here, just pause for just that and then come through. Okay, it's a great way to be able to get the feeling for your move, because what happens is that very slight little pause at the top gives you the feeling for where the backswing is, and then you can start the downswing from that lower half. It's a great way to really be able to get the feeling of how the club is going to come through the ball and how you're going to be able to get the sequence correct from the ground up. So that's one thing. I would implore you to maybe just do that as a practice move. It doesn't need to be a long one, just a split second. And it can also be great if you really struggle with an overswing, you might be able to get yourself just there and get the feeling then just with the pause to train that kind of three-quartery look to your backswing. Obviously we see that on the way through the shot, Hideki goes like this a little bit. The head rotates, it's not dropping, but it rotates back. Now it's really unique to him, because anytime I see somebody whose head would rotate a little bit that way, it's really hard to be open. So I've got the body open because the head is going this way. I have to be very flexible in the neck and the top of my back to open my shoulders. I would implore you to be more along the lines of a David Duval, Henrik Stenson, Arnika Sorenstam type deal, where you let that head rotate with you on the way through, i.e. a bit more here. That allows you to get a lot more open. We know that tour players are pretty open in their shoulders and the torso through impact, so this is something that you could really start to put in place. So what you'd be looking at is, feel like the eyes are following the line of the ball. Hit three-quarter shots doing that, and that'll really enable you to get very open through the ball. I bet if you did that, you'd probably be more aligned to Hideki's body positions at impact and therefore deliver the club in a much more reliable fashion than if you try and keep the head back like he does. I think you'll end up pushing the ball off to the right or dropping the club too far into out. If you're a big slicer of a ball, you might think this is a good thing, but unless you've got great club face awareness, you might be in a bit of problems with that one. Lastly, what we would then tend to look at is Hideki obviously gets a very wide stance, okay? I believe that's a little bit too wide, so that isn't something that I would totally employ in your game, okay? But it would be something that you want to get a little bit wider on the long clubs, because it really means you've got a very stable base to fire that lower body. You can see he's got very strong legs, so he's able to really use that lower body very aggressively in his golf swing. So with the longer clubs, please ensure that you are wide enough to be able to take the power of that full swing. But on the shorter clubs, don't be afraid to get a bit narrow. He gets a little bit wide on all of them, and I think that that's probably just to help him get rid of some lateral motion in that lower body, because as we can see right there on the video previously, he is very rotational through the ball, and that slightly wider base enables him to put those elements that he likes in his golf swing into place. Hopefully you've enjoyed that video and there's some really good bits that you can take from your game. If you'd like to see any other further pro analysis going forward, please comment below, let us know what you'd like to see. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and talk with you again very soon.